this will be part 2 of my continuing commentary on the Voyage of the Dawn Treader film. In the last video, I talked about some of the opening scenes and the introduction of Eustace, some of that Uncle Harold stuff, the whole picture in the bedroom scene. Then they got on board the Dawn Treader, and that's where I cut off. Continuing now. First off, we have I remember Caspian started talking, and I just remember thinking, oh, that doesn't feel like Caspian. And it took me a minute or so to just kind of go, oh, they changed the accent. Of course, I'm not sure why. It took me a while. I didn't really. I went very spoiler free, the last few weeks, and so I totally forgotten about them changing the accent. And definitely once I got used to it, definitely a big improvement. Now you almost wonder comparing his performance between in Dawn Treader and in Prince Caspian. You almost wonder if the accent might have been holding him back some in Prince Caspian. Not that it was a bad performance in Prince Caspian; it was fine. But here he seems like a much more credible leader. You really get the sense that he's matured these past 2 years. Ben Barnes and Will Poulter to me are the two actors that kind of shine in this movie. Then everyone else is either just okay or not good. I was happy with Ben Barnes' performance. As Caspian is introducing them, he stands up on that step and he goes, "Behold our castaways, High King and Queen of Narnia." High King? Edmund is not the High King. Peter was the High King. There's nothing in the book that remotely indicates that now Edmund is the new High King. To me, it just seems little things like that. Just like how when they go, "Yes, you're in Narnia," when they're not in Narnia. They're far east of Narnia. Little mistakes like that indicate to me that they don't. People. It just makes me, as a fan, makes me feel like they don't really understand this book. They haven't really read it that closely. And if you're making little mistakes like that, if you can miss little things like that, it's hardly surprising that they miss the bigger, larger issues as well. So that was, as a fan, that was really annoying. Then we have something that was really hard for me to take as a fan is Reepicheep's introduction. I've mentioned that a few times. I remember even the first time if you go to the video where we first got our really good picture of Reepicheep, where I read that section. I love where he's introduced, and it's like, you might call it, and indeed it was a mouse, but it was a mouse standing about 2 feet high, and all that stuff about the gold band and the sword nearly as long as his own tail. Love the way Lewis writes Reepicheep's introduction, and it's such a noble. I don't want to say epic, but I kind of do at the same time. It's probably my favorite character introduction in the whole series. The only thing that I think could compete with that would be Puddleglum. Another great introduction. Just love the way Lewis writes it. And instead of this big, wonderful, noble, huge introduction, the first time we see Reepicheep, he's flying across the deck of the Dawn Treader. He's soaking wet, bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. Ugh! Then he kind of, stumbles across in front of the camera. So it has a very slapstick comedic introduction. That was really, really disappointing for me as a fan of the book. There's also that illustration I've used several times in these videos, more than several. Use it all the time. It's one of my favorite Pauline Baines illustrations, and it just really captures that scene from the book so well. That was reduced in the book movie. It was changed to him kind of flip flopping across the deck, and I thought, wow, what a way to introduce Reepicheep. That was really annoying. Here's where we start getting a little bit of dialogue from the extras, and the extras in this movie are pretty consistently bad. Just the way they talk, it just sounds so jolly and cheesy. You really feel like they're going for this sort of old school pirate kind of thing, especially with Drinian, which I'll talk about in a second. But I really feel like man the longboats. They're going for this, which could work, but it doesn't feel genuine. It just feels silly. It feels cliched. It's fine when you make it like in Pirates of the Caribbean. They actually did a good job on capturing that sort of yo ho thing, but still making it credible, that this is real. In this one, it just seems like they're goofing off whenever the extras talk. I didn't buy it at all. Then we have one of the first times in the movie that my heart really soared as an Narnia fan, which is that first big, long, epic shot of the Dawn Treader, and you just couldn't help but be excited about it. It was like, wow, that's the Dawn Treader. And I've been praising the look of the Dawn Treader the last couple of years. After seeing it on the big screen, no real change in my opinion. I think it's a fantastic design. I'm really glad they went for it, and they didn't try to make it too realistic or anything. Just look at a ship with a purple sail and a dragon prow. What more do you want? And then just the music and the speed of that shot, beautiful. Just really lifted me up right out of my seat. It was awesome. The next scene's when they're in sort of the cabin. They're getting their gifts, and first off, there's a nice little subtle detail in the background I noticed on my third viewing that it says. Somewhere on the wall in the background it says, "Once the king or queen of Narnia, always the king or queen." Nice subtle detail, and it makes sense for that scene because they're returning to Narnia, after a year for them. I really like that. The gifts. I'm going to talk about the scene a lot because I think that it really does set a precedent for the way this movie is written. You see, like, Caspian shows Lucy her cordial. She goes, "Oh, my healing cordial." Goes over and shows them Susan's bow and arrows. "Oh, Susan's bow and arrows. Oh, Peter's sword." It's everything is spoon. It's like it's one of my pet peeves with movies, and it's almost without exception this entire movie saying things that are obviously right in front of us. We can see them. I'm not an idiot. And it's like, and that is really, I just kind of harp on that because it really is just set a precedent for the way the rest of this movie is written. We don't see or feel anything for ourselves. We have to be told about it. We don't see or feel character relationships. We have to be told that they're there, otherwise it wouldn't come through. There's a lot of really important things in this movie that don't come through in the story, so they have to be told to us out loud. Visual storytelling, show don't tell. This movie does very little showing, does a whole lot of telling. That really takes away from the power of it. It was interesting when Caspian handed Edmund Peter's sword, and Edmund's like, "No, no, you take it." It was interesting. They brought that image back from the Prince Caspian movie. Throughout the Prince Caspian movie, you had this recurring idea of the passing on swords kind of became a symbol of submission and humility, and they carried that on a little bit here. I thought that was a nice touch. Much to the relief of every Narnia fan, they have Caspian pulls out his map and says that, oh, there's peace all across Narnia, so there's no kind of war we're trying to win by going on this voyage. So that was a relief. We speculated they might do that. We were really worried about it. And then that excitement is quenched when Lucy, in this kind of silly expression, she's like, "So have you found a queen yet in these 3 years?" And Caspian goes, "No, none to rival your sister, at least." Ah! When I was watching that, I was sitting next to my brother. As soon as Caspian said that, me and my brother at the same time went, "No!" out loud. Everyone looked at us, like, "Sorry," but it was involuntary. At the same time, we both went, "No!" And I couldn't believe it. How dare they not just pretend that the whole Caspian Susan thing never happened? Douglas Gresham himself admitted that the kiss was nonsense. Douglas Gresham, C.S. Lewis's stepson, producer of the film, admitted the kiss was nonsense. And here they go again, just referencing. I just, the right way to handle Suspian was to just pretend like it never happened. It was like 5 seconds anyway. It's not like we have to acknowledge this. That was incredibly annoying. Man, that took the wind out of my sails. The pun intended. Then we go into a positive here. Caspian starts explaining the reason they're on the voyage. The reason, by the way, is different. And I talked about that. The reason the lords are missing is different. Talked about that in a couple videos ago, and overall I thought it was a fine change, no real problems with it. I thought it kind of simplified things. I thought it was fine. The reason the lords are gone is a little different. Caspian says, "It's my duty to find them," and I thought that was great. I was always worried that Caspian's intentions might be, they might be changed to him trying to save the world instead of being about nobility. And here it is, his nobility is here. Later we're going to see it get skewed, but for now it's there. So I was very encouraged when I saw that. Then we go to a scene where first off, Drinian starts talking about, what's beyond the world's end. Oh, it might be sea serpents and stuff. And I can't even do the accent. His accent is so stupid. I don't know what Drinian's accent is. Or maybe it's just the way his voice sounds. I don't know. But anytime Drinian opened his mouth in this movie, I was just thinking, stop talking. Stop talking. Stop talking. It is the most annoying thing. And again, instead, try to do that old kind of pirate lingo, and it doesn't work. It just sounds cheesy and silly instead of sounding, sincere or real. I like the idea of the scene where it's like, I think it's somebody says, I think it was Lucy who says, "Oh, so what's beyond the Lone Islands? What lies further east?" And they said, "Oh, no one knows. Tales of sea serpents and monsters." A little bit cheesy because of the way that Drinian says it, but I like the idea of them building a sense of anticipation and a little bit of dread and a little bit of awe and fear of what are we going to find. We have no idea what's going to be out there. The awe of the unknown, the anticipation of what might we find is a big thing that drives the book, and that this is them trying to kind of hint at that. Unfortunately, Edmund kind of spoils it when he goes, "Sea serpents." I'm not sure why, like especially in a world like Narnia, we're going into this complete unexplored, unknown part of Narnia, and here's Edmund laughing about sea serpents. Is that any more ridiculous than fauns or centaurs or minotaurs? I thought that was pretty silly. Then we have Lucy on the front of the ship. We show her waving to some water nymphs, and there's this big slow-mo shot where a water nymph jumps out of the water and kind of waves to Lucy in slow motion. It seemed very out of style with the rest of the movie. I was kind of going, what the heck is that? We have this, I like Lucy talking about, "Edmund, do you think if we just keep going, we'll just tip off the edge of the world?" I really like that. I wish they'd acknowledged, in the book, Eustace is like, "No, but the world is round like a ball," I wish that they had, acknowledge, because it just seems kind of silly. Like, I think if you haven't read the book, you're watching it, you're going, are these kids idiots? They're sure they know the world is round. It seems like there should be an acknowledgement. We know that our world is round, but this one might be different. Lewis understood, yeah, that kind of needs to be said. Here, it's like, do you think we might tip off the edge? I just wish they had established a little bit better that, this world might not necessarily be round. I guess it could just be assumed, but I would have liked a little more there. Then we've got that scene with Lucy talking to Reepicheep on the prow. There's that big, long shot that has kind of a fakey look to it of, sort of establishing the size of the Dawn Treader and the layout and everything. And you hear this kind of annoying, like, da, fa, blah, blah. You're like, what the heck is that? And then finally it's like, oh, it's the mouse singing, just as he's finishing the song. This incredibly important plot point. I talked about this in the video about Reepicheep's longing in part 2, so I won't talk about too much here. But this really important thing, Reepicheep's verse, the lullaby that was sung to him, is reduced to just sort of background noise for an epic shot of the Dawn Treader. That was really annoying. This is such an important part. And again, it's nice seeing Reepicheep. I talked all about this in Reepicheep's Longing Part 2. Go to that video. It was like 3 videos ago or something. Watch that one where I really talk about this. But I liked how Reepicheep talks about Aslan's country. But I didn't get the sense that he'd been longing for this his entire life. I was actually just reading Surprised by Joy, C.S. Lewis's autobiography, when he's talking about the sense of longing he felt when he was young. And that's just not captured here at all. And Reepicheep talks about Aslan's country as if it's Disney World. Just a cool place to go. I don't get the sense he's just dying to go there. And also, this scene follows, Caspian, in the movie Caspian says, oh, I'm here to find the 7 lords. And then the next scene, a couple scenes later actually, and then Reepicheep has this whole idea of Aslan's country. We never get any indication that the other characters know anything about Aslan's country. It's just Reepicheep. In the book, at the possibility of finding Aslan's country and the quest to find the lords are pretty much on equal footing. You might even say Aslan's country is a bigger deal in the book, because Caspian says, Reepicheep here has an even higher hope. That's all in one scene. Here, yeah, the lords is the main thing, and the Aslan's country is just kind of an afterthought. It's the next scene. So the importance of Aslan's country is really watered down throughout this film. So they reach the Lone Islands a little bit sooner than I would have liked. Again, the pacing of this film is just furious, and you've got Caspian looking through his telescope and says, "Oh, looks kind of suspicious." And you got that moment there where Drinian, basically, Edmund's trying to give orders, and Drinian basically says, "Oh, Caspian's the king here," and Edmund's like, "Yeah, right," kind of setting up their conflict in Deathwater, which was nice. You see Edmund submitting to Caspian's authority. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, this is Caspian's ship. And that is Edmund's character. His willingness to submit, I think, is really important. They captured that there. And then going aboard, I don't understand why they brought Eustace along. Caspian's looking through his little telescope thing. Wow, it looks kind of suspicious. Let's bring this annoying little brat along who can't do anything. He's going to be a nuisance. For some reason, they bring him along. Not the entire crew of the Dawn Treader goes along. Only some of them do. Why wouldn't they just leave Eustace on the ship? For some reason I cannot fathom, they bring Eustace along, and that's the reason they get kidnapped and everything. They probably would have won that fight, that struggle they get into on the Lone Islands, if Eustace hadn't been there to scream like a girl and get the knife through her throat and everything. So, for some reason they bring Eustace along. I can't imagine why they would, and they pay the price for it. So it's their own stupidity that results in them being enslaved. So my 15-minute time limit is about up here. Again, this thing is there's some good stuff here. There's a lot of little things that I'm really not liking. And really, like that scene with Lucy and Reepicheep, I like that scene, but at the time, I did not realize this is going to be the only scene in the movie until the very, very end where Reepicheep mentions Aslan's country. So I like the scene, but if I'd have known that was it, I would not have been as happy. So far, I'm like, okay, I'm happy about Caspian's nobility still seems to be there. There's a couple things. There's a lot of little things I'm not liking here, but it seems like this is not unsalvageable. This could still get better. So I'll talk about the Lone Islands in my next video.